Did my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid. Today, of all things, even though we may or may not see a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch, pretty good odds of it today because a neighbor over on the other side of the property line is cutting hay. So we're going to walk up along the wood line, along the property boundary, in the hopes of maybe getting a glimpse of him, her, it, or they, because I don't think they're going to be hanging out over there while they're cutting hay. So that almost doubles our odds of seeing one over here, unless they went to the neighboring property over on the other side. But first, let me show you one of many projects I completed today. As you can see, we now have an electric fence around our apiary. There's our bees. Hi, bees. They're doing really well. Of course, I'm making sure not to touch this. And I now know the difference between an apiary and an aviary. An aviary is for birds, apiaries are for bees. Someone pointed that out to me in the comments, and I appreciate that because I've been talking about my aviary this whole time, and I don't have an aviary. And again, to whoever the anonymous donor is that sent this UDAP bear fence, this is actually predominantly meant for camping, but it works with bees as well. Thank you very much. I finally got it up. The most difficult part of putting this thing together was getting these little clamps on these poles, and that was a me issue. I'm not very dexterous with the tips of my fingers like I used to be. A lot of it has just to do with poor eyesight, I think, but got them on there. It runs off of 2 D-sized batteries that need to be replaced every month. So first of every month, I'm going to replace the batteries. It is on. It's really neat. The metal clamp on the box gives power to the electric lines. And then, of course, you've got some cables here running power from the middle to the top. The bottom is the ground wire. Here's a ground rod. But it's alive, it's active, and it delivers up to 9,000 volts of a shock. Keep them bars away from my bees. All right, while we're out here, just real quick, then we're going to get to talking about some really spooky stuff and give you an update on the Jerusalem artichokes I planted about 5 weeks ago. They're coming up nicely. Now, they would have been doing better, but after they started coming up originally, I forgot to put deer repellent on them. So they got about this big once already. And then the deer came through and munched them down to the ground. So I came through and got them with the deer repellent. And now they're on the way back. The deer should leave them alone. But every single little patch that I planted has come up. And there's one. And of course, the rest of this weedy looking area is sown with an assortment of wild flowers, different colors, that should be up in about another 3 weeks. So really excited that all these flowers are going to be here for the bees to pollinate. All right, let's take a walk and talk. I'm going to go slowly so you can get a good view of the tree line here behind me, and so that I can drink my coffee without spilling it. For those of you who are upset by me drinking coffee in this video, I do not apologize. I just woke up from a nap. I've been doing all this stuff, all this tedious stuff all day, because it occurs to me it is now crunch time. My beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our wonderful son Daniel will be back in 4 days from their 2-month-long trip in the Philippines. And I can't wait. It can't come soon enough. But in the meantime, I have these 2 big long honeydew lists that have not been completed. And it's not necessarily that she wanted me to do these things. It's just when she was leaving, I was putting together a list of things to do outside and a list of things to do inside to keep me busy while they were gone, to keep me from just sitting around and missing them. I found one of the best things you can do when you have time on your hands is to just stay busy, stay active. Well, but wouldn't you know it, as soon as they leave, I go and start writing my next novel. It's called The Lunatic. If you haven't read it yet, you don't know what you're missing. You're missing perhaps the most influential piece of literature in literature ever. Read it. So, that was great that I pumped that thing out. You know, got it written, edited, published, and everything while they're gone. But then that gave me a week to do 2 months worth of stuff. I haven't gotten it done. So today, I finally got that bear wire up around the bees, which is great. Because it's just a matter of time before them old bars come through here. And I mean, I can do that whole Davy Crockett thing and grin them down. I've tried it. They just look at me like there's something wrong with me. Like maybe I'm a bit touched in the head. And they just walk away. So I don't really grin them down. I just kind of grin them into turning around and walking away. But if it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to be inside snoring. I can't be out here grinning. So I had to get that fence up before they come around. Last year, saw 5 bears here. That's more than we've seen in the 5 years total since we've been here. Last year, the bears sure liked coming around here. So anyway, got that done. And then there's a bunch of bookcases because we rearranged, moved around some bookshelves a few times over the last 5 or 6 years, and they kind of started coming apart and getting weak. So I just went ahead and bought brand new ones. They've been laying there in the boxes, all brand new, for a couple months, but today I got one put together. These things don't take long. They're just very tedious, and I don't like that kind of stuff. Drives me nuts. And so I got them done, and I had a big old lunch and fell asleep for 2 hours. So then I woke up faced with the predicament. I wanted to go in town today and run. I got my running stuff on. Set my shoes. I'll put them on when I'm done with this. Just going to go into town and run around campus just to get, some different scenery because I've been out here all day. But I don't want to give up an hour driving. That's what it would take total time. 30 minutes into town, 30 minutes back. Because I have got to try to get maybe another one of these bookshelves put together. Since we're in crunch time, 4 days. So anyway, I decided to stay home. And usually, I'll take my time drinking my coffee and don't get into doing anything. But I wanted to get out here and tell this story while we're looking around for him, her, it, or they. As you can tell, we're moving further and further away from that tractor, which is going to give us a little bit better hearing ability up here. So, if you've been following the channel, I've recently made some reconnections with some folks from my previous life from a long time ago. And one of those connections was with my longest, oldest friendship relationship in my life. And turns out, surprise, surprise, he watches the channel too. And he's like, man, he goes, I'm glad you called. We've been talking a little bit, and he goes, you're always talking about this Bigfoot Sasquatch and these ghosts and stuff. He's like, dude, did you forget about that time traveler we found when we were kids? We were like 9 years old. And I'm like, I guess so, because I don't remember. Why don't you remind me? And it's not like a long-winded story. Yeah, even with me telling it, it's not long-winded, if you can believe that. We've got company. Let's sneak into these woods. I'm going to flip the phone around so you can see what I see as we see it. But we distinctly heard something large crashing through that forest. Let's see if we can see what we can see. Maybe we'll see if it's him, her, it, or they. It's interesting to note where this happened. Let me show you a panoramic view. I'm up here at the highest point of elevation on our property. You can see the whole property from here. We just walked up that trail. Way down there's a house. I've pointed this out. Especially 2 years ago when I first discovered it. There has never been a road right here. But this part of the property, this part of the wood line just looks like it opens up as if it were a road. Does it not? Look at that. Looks like, I mean, if I cut that limb out of there, I could drive my truck through here. But this was never a road. This is like this because of how frequently him, her, it, or look at this. Something was laying there. It's how frequently him, her, it, or they come through this specific area. It's like this is their favorite spot. Let's do a scan. I don't want to be walking right up on a Bigfoot Sasquatch while I'm talking about a time traveler. Well, they got the perfect little hiding spots back here, man. They sneak back in here in between these brush and grapevine stuff. There's a catbird way over there giving us some kind of warning. They're like, don't you come any closer, brah. I don't see whatever that thing was that went bounding through here, but that doesn't mean that it's not still in here. So I'm going to keep telling my story about this time traveler. You can take it or leave it for what it's worth. All right, so I think I might have left out the part that after I make this video, I'm just going to run out here somewhere, these old roads, country roads or something. I don't want to give up that hour driving because I'm going to start on that next bookshelf. I want everything to be ready here in 4 days when my family gets back, so there's nothing to do. They can just rest. I'm going to go to the grocery store the day before they get here and make sure the house is real stocked up on food and everything. Some butternuts starting to fall. They're very closely related to hickories. They're actually it's kind of similar, very similar. I think they might even be a type of hickory nut, but they call them butternuts. There is some sort of mysterious creature screaming from the forest at the present moment. Okay, so anyway, dude's like, remember that time traveler? I'm like, no, I don't remember that time traveler. So he reminded me. And the situation is this. It's really a short story. I mean, even I can't drag it out. I thought about not even telling it because, you know, usually these videos are 20 minutes long or longer. It's like, how can I turn like pretty much a 90-second video, or I mean a 90-second long story into like a 20-minute video? How could anybody make that happen? But it's a story worth telling, so I came out to tell it anyway. So here's the deal. I would have been 9 years old, and 1983, January 1983, okay? Watch back there. I saw something. I just don't know what it was. Look to the left of that tree. Keep looking to the left of that tree. No, I'm not looking in the phone. You know my strategies. You know my techniques. I can't look because they can feel that. You've got to, if you see it, you got to timestamp it. Just to the left of the tree. You notice how deadly quiet it just got? All right, so here we are. It's me, my buddy, and some other kid. And we're just hanging out in our neighborhood. We go down to this river in our neighborhood like we so often do to throw rocks in the river. We're all bundled up. There was no snow or anything, but it was cold. And there was this guy on the other side of the river. And he was just at a part of the river that just seemed so odd because there was no easy access to that part of the river where this guy was. I mean, you could access this river from pretty much anywhere you wanted. There was nothing against it. It wasn't lined by public. You know, that's one of the biggest differences between Virginia and West Virginia. In Virginia, most of the property, as in like all of it, is private property, except for, you know, there's some state parks and some national parks. But in West by God, Virginia, all the property is owned by either the federal government in the form of national forest, or state government with state forest, or private corporations, coal companies, timber companies. There's just like, you know, it's nothing for, you know, I've got neighbors here in Virginia that have 1,000 acres or 100 acres. In West by God, Virginia, it's like everybody's got half an acre, but it borders, 500,000 acre state park. So you kind of get free reign of like having these huge lots of land, because as long as you're properly licensed and everything, you can hunt on it and fish on it and hike and camp and all that. But you can't go out and, you know, take any of the resources, cut down a dead tree and use it for firewood and that. So it's really kind of neat. So my point to that is, you know, not that I'm trying to turn a 90-second story into a 20-plus minute long video. You notice it's still very quiet. We were hearing birds and everything. There may or may not be potentially a sabé. New term I've come across here lately for him, her, it, or they. Sabé. What is that, the French version of Bigfoot Sasquatch? Whatever. Call it what you want. I call it Bigfoot Sasquatch. Tends to twist a lot of people's panties because of its redundancy. Whatever, dude. I don't know if it wants to be called Bigfoot or Sasquatch, so I just call it both. You're out there calling it sabé. We don't even know if this thing's French. Wow. Check out how those trees are lined up like hallways through portals. And what in the heck is that? Keep your eyes on it. See if it moves. I think it's been following us all the way down the hill. Sabé. Would you like some sorbet? Nay? Olé. Did it move? Oh, it just did. Look at that. It just did. Wow. All right. So there was this guy on the other side of the river in just a really weird spot. It's like no one ever went to that spot. Why would there be a guy there in that spot? And he wasn't dressed for cold weather. He was just wearing blue jeans and I guess like a long sleeve flannel shirt, but no coat, and it was cold. And he was holding something in his hand that looked like a shiny piece of slate. Mind you, this is 1983. A shiny piece of slate about twice the size of a playing card. I found a little stump. I'm going to sit on it here. I don't want to wear myself out before my run. That's my warm-up. So we yelled across the river, hey, do you need some help? And he's like, no. And he's fumbling around with this shiny piece of slate. Well, as my buddy pointed out in the phone conversation the other day, he's like, dude, that guy had an iPhone. And at the time, we wouldn't have known what that was. 83, 93, 03, 13, 23. This is 2 years shy of being 40 years ago. We said, hey, what are you doing over there? Do you need some help? He's like, no, I'm good. I'm just trying to get back. We're like, trying to get back where? He goes, to where I came from. We're like, do you need a ride? Do you need us to get somebody to get? No. Just. I need out of here. Trying to get out of here. We're like, well, where are you from? And he says the future, and we of course think he's a drunkard. And so we test him. We put him to the test. We said, okay, who's going to win the Super Bowl? And he goes, what year is it? And we told him, and this is the only thing that allows me to really connect the time. So it was like 1983 or something like that. I was 9 years old. We tell him, and he's messing around with this shiny piece of slate, twice the size of a playing card. And he goes, the Washington football team. And I said, ha! I knew it. And I told my buddy I knew it. And my buddy says, you mean the Redskins are actually going to beat the Dolphins? The Dolphins have Dan Marino or whatever. He's the best quarterback ever. And the guy laughs. He throws his head back in laughter, and he goes, yeah, the best quarterback ever to never win a Super Bowl. And so anyway, my friends, the Redskins beat the Dolphins, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, the Washington football team. And we were like, well, yeah, that's the Redskins. He goes, not anymore. Not where I come from. And we're looking at each other like, this guy's crazy. What in the world's he talking about? And we said, all right, so where you come from? Who's the president? And he says, oh, just some actor. And we said, well, yeah, same thing here. Ronald Reagan. And he throws his head back with laughter. He goes, no, different actor. And we said, well, who is it? Tom Selleck? He goes, no. He goes, you probably wouldn't know at your age because the guy's not even an actor yet. And so we thought maybe he was a kid, but no, turns out something different. So my buddy, he had a very close relative who was in law enforcement. And I'm just going to put it at that. And my buddy was all the time as a 9-year-old kid stealing his walkie-talkie, his CBs and all that stuff. So he ran to his very close relative's house and stole his service walkie-talkie, and he started calling for backup. Yeah, 9-year-old kid. And you could hear the law enforcement officers screaming across the channel, telling him by name, give that back to, so-and-so. You got to stop doing this. And so he comes back to the river and he says, don't worry, we got backup coming. We got this here. And the guy throws his head back laughing. He goes, yeah, I remember communication devices being that big. He goes, boys, you're going to love it when this is all you need to do everything. And he holds up this shiny piece of slate, twice the size of a playing card. He says, you'll be able to do everything on this. You'll be able to, and then like that, he was gone. So backup finally arrives, takes the thing out of my buddy's hand, scolds us for playing with it. We tell him what we saw. We said there was a guy over there. We thought maybe he was a drunkard, maybe some sort of degenerate or some sort of derelict. He told us something about how the Washington football team was going to beat the Dolphins and Dan Marino would never win a Super Bowl. And he comes from a place where some actor is the president, but it's not Ronald Reagan or Tom Selleck. So the guy, he goes over there, this law enforcement guy. He goes down to where we said we saw the guy, and he comes back and he goes, boys, I don't know what to tell you. He says, I saw footsteps down there. It was obvious that somebody was milling around down there, and it was down by the river, down over a very steep embankment. And he said the dangest thing is there were no foot tracks going down to where this guy was, and there were no foot tracks leading up out of where this guy was. It's like somebody just appeared there and somebody just disappeared there. And we said, well, that's what we're trying to tell you. And he takes the thing and he taps us on the noggins. Not hard. He wasn't trying to hurt us. He goes, yeah, well, don't tell anybody else about this and stop messing around with, so-and-so. He mentioned the guy's close relatives. Equipment. Get on, yeah. That's Appalachian American for get on out of here. which is what I got to do now if I got to get my run in. If I'm going to get my run in here and have time to start putting that other bookshelf together. Got 2 to go. So thanks for being here with me for another episode of the PBS. The Potential Bigfoot Sasquatch Sunday Show.